Imagine two students, Vivek and Sandeep, each taking a 30-question math test. On the first half, Vivek gets 14 out of 15 correct, while Sandeep gets only 6 correct. In the second half, the scores reverse, with Sandeep getting 14 and Vivek only 6. Objectively, these two students have both performed at the same level, getting a total of 20 out of 30 problems correct. So rationally, anyone watching would conclude that they have the same level of mastering math, right? Only that's not what happens, not even close. In study after study, researchers find that Vivek is perceived even by experts like math teachers to be more talented of the two. This is because performance on the first half of the test creates far greater influence on the judgment than the performance on the second. In a sense, when the test is only halfway finished, the perceiver has already concluded that Vivek is smarter than Sandeep. What happens afterwards does little to alter those initial impressions. The implications of findings like these for late bloomers like me or anyone who struggles initially only to excel later are terrifying. However, it's not impossible to change these initial impressions, but it is really difficult. Hi booktookers, welcome back to your channel booktook, where I introduce you to the finest books and transformational ideas from world-class thinkers, experts and achievers. In one short video, you get to learn what others may take months, years or even a lifetime. Think of all the instances when you accidentally make bad first impression, whether in a new organization, with your new boss, with a potential partner, or in a new group which you want to be part of. If for some reason you're not at your best, it might be very difficult to reverse the damage and post the initial bad impression. When other people look at you, they see what they expect to see. Psychologists call this confirmation bias. If people have a reason to believe that you are smart, they will see evidence of intelligence in your behavior, whether or not there is any. If they have a reason to believe you are dishonest, they will interpret your lack of eye contact or awkward body language as evidence that you have something to hide, as opposed to evidence that you are just shy or distracted. Today I'm sharing the lessons from book No One Understands You and What to Do About It. This book is written by Dr. Heidi Grant, who is a leadership, influence and motivation expert and is ranked among the top management thinkers globally. Before we deep dive into the science of how to change people's impression about you, if you're new to this channel and haven't subscribed yet, do subscribe and do invite your friends to join the booktookers community and learn from the latest and greatest books of the world. Now let's get into the fascinating research of impression management. As per research, you are never really starting from scratch with another person. Even when you are meeting him or her for the first time, this perceiver's brain is rapidly filling in details about you before you have even spoken a word. Anybody who makes or changes an opinion about you goes through two phases of perception. Phase 1, automatic. It happens automatically below your awareness and in fractions of a second. It's also relatively effortless and riddled with biases. People rely on stereotypes or mental shortcuts like your name, education, community, the way you look, the way you talk, and quickly form an opinion about you. And the phase 2 is deliberate. The mental operations in this phase are complex and effortful, require attention, and are usually done with conscious awareness. If we are to get a complete and accurate understanding of someone, phase 2 processing is absolutely necessary. Unfortunately, phase 2 is very effortful, so we need to be motivated to do it. Otherwise, we don't reconsider the snap judgments we reached in phase 1. In research, it was found only when perceivers were not mentally busy when they could enter phase 2. They were able to successfully take the situation into account. The implications of this insights are fascinating, as people nowadays have have very short attention spans, so most of the time you are at a disadvantage if you are trying to create a better impression with a person who is busy. Getting things right at phase 1 is by far the easier and therefore preferable option. So can't we do anything if someone forms a bad impression about us? Research says we can. People can change how others see them even if they made a bad start. Let's see how. You need to somehow get your perceiver to enter phase 2, the correction phase, so that his or her impression of you will be revised to reflect you more accurately. So here's the tactic number 1. Bombard them with overwhelming evidence. One way to push your perceivers into phase 2 is to bombard your perceivers with overwhelming evidence that their impression of you is wrong. So be prepared to go to the extremes. For instance, imagine that an employee, Ranveer, has a well-deserved reputation of being late to work. His behavior has led his boss and everyone to have serious questions about his competence and his commitment. Realizing this, Ranveer decides to turn over a new leaf and become punctual, hoping this will change his impression. Every day for a week, he arrives at work on time. Do you think this would lead his boss to see Ranveer in a new way? Do you think it would even register? What if instead of simply arriving on time, Ranveer started arriving an hour early for work each day for a week? That would certainly register because it represents a big change, a departure from your impression of his boss that's too big to ignore. His boss would naturally wonder what's up with Ranveer and pay closer attention to his behavior in the coming weeks to see if the change lasts. Ranveer's behavior would have successfully nudged his boss into phase 2. This is slow but sure short way to change your perception. Tactic number 2. Make them want to revise their opinion of you. If you don't have 6 months to spare, you are going to have to go with this second option. When you can make your perceiver want to revise his or her opinion of you, you can achieve your aims faster and with less effort. But this approach requires you to make use of some clever strategizing. You can do this using one of the combination of 3 ways. Number 1, activate the perceiver's sense of fairness. In general, people like to think of themselves as fair and unbiased. And if you ask them if they have the goal of judging people fairly and treating them accordingly, they will almost certainly tell you that yes, they do. Research suggests that when the sense is strong and active, meaning that the perceiver is genuinely committed to fairness and that the goal has been activated in his or her mind in the current situation, the perceiver will spontaneously and automatically inhibit biases and stereotypes to a large degree. But how to put your perceiver into this state? Use the power of labeling. In general, people will try to conform to the labels that are given to them, provided that the labels are positive and not totally inconsistent with their existing views. Number 2, notice when they feel out of control. Take advantage of times when you notice your perceiver is already feeling a bit out of control. Times when he or she is stressed, anxious, or a bit down, whatever the reason. Let's say your boss or person you want to correct your impression with seems overwhelmed with the number of projects on his or her plate. You could offer to lend a hand and could use the opportunity to showcase the skill sets you want her to recognize. For instance, your organizational skills or your initiative taking or your resilience under pressure. Stepping up to help when a supervisor or colleague is in crisis is a great way to highlight your strengths when the person is most likely to notice. Number 3, spend more face time with them. Once someone realizes that he or she is going to have to put up with you for a while, the person is more likely to want to see the best in you. So if you suspect that you have created a bad impression or that your perceiver isn't noticing your good qualities, try to increase the amount of contact between the two of you. Stick to your perceiver like glue, and eventually the person will learn to like you. Remember, phase 2 doesn't happen automatically. Your perceivers have to have the mental energy and the motivation to do the work. Bombarding them with attention, getting evidence of your true nature will do the trick. And if you don't have too much time, appeal to their sense of fairness before you make another attempt to make your case. So these were some research-backed ways to how to correct that first impression if you started on a wrong foot. Hope you found this useful, and as with any idea, they work best when applied, so do apply and see how it works for you. Do mention in the comments if you want book summary and tactics from any of the particular topic or a book. See you in next video where we will continue this quest to learn from the best. Till then, have fun and be limitless.